In 2024, Nigeria was shaken by a series of shocking cases that revealed the dark side of society. From violent crimes to deep betrayals, these real-life stories showed the frightening truths hidden beneath the surface. As each case unfolded, the search for justice became harder and harder. What drives people to commit such terrible acts, and what happens when justice doesn't work? Explore these disturbing events in Nigeria, where the most surprising crimes are not always the ones you expect. The poisoned dish. In the quiet community of Afashio, Edo State, Nigeria, 16-year-old Aisha Suleiman was reeling from heartbreak. Her recent breakup with Emmanuel Eloji had left her feeling humiliated, her mind swirling with thoughts of betrayal. Anger took hold, and in her despair, a dangerous idea surfaced. She would make him feel her pain. She planned her revenge by preparing Emmanuel's favorite dish, pepper soup, but with a deadly twist. She would lace it with poison. As she set the plan into motion, Aisha had no idea what tragic chain of events she was about to unleash. On October 26, 2024, Aisha prepared the pepper soup with a dark intent, believing it would only affect Emmanuel. She could never have predicted what would come next. That evening, Emmanuel invited his friends over for a casual gathering. Unknowingly, they gathered around to share the poisoned soup, laughing and enjoying what they thought was just a normal night. Among his friends were two brothers, Samuel and Jeffrey Idowu, and a close friend, Nuruddin. They ate, unaware that each spoonful was a step closer to a fatal end. Hours after the meal, family members grew concerned when none of the friends returned home. They decided to check Emmanuel's apartment, where they were met with a nightmare. Inside, 5 young lives had been cut short. Emmanuel and his girlfriend, Ada Samuel, lay together in his bedroom, while Samuel, Jeffrey, and Nuruddin were found lifeless in the living room and hallway. The once lively home was now a scene of heartbreak and disbelief, their laughter and joy replaced by haunting silence. The gruesome scene triggered an immediate response from the local authorities. The Edo State Police Command arrived quickly, launching a full investigation. Initially, they suspected food poisoning, but rumors began to swirl. Could a generator's fumes have caused this tragedy? As police dug deeper, they started to piece together chilling evidence, all pointing toward one person, Aisha Suleiman. The question loomed, was this truly just a tragic accident, or was something far darker at play? With growing suspicions, authorities apprehended Aisha. News of her alleged involvement spread rapidly, igniting outrage across the community. Some residents were ready to take justice into their own hands, targeting Aisha with their anger and grief. But before vigilantes could strike, the police intervened, taking her into custody for questioning. In the safety of the interrogation room, Aisha was forced to confront the consequences of her vengeful act. The deaths of 5 young people devastated Afashio, casting a heavy shadow over the once peaceful town. Emmanuel Eloji, 19, Ada Samuel, 16, Samuel Idowu, 16, Jeffrey Idowu, 14, and Nuruddin were mourned as families grappled with unimaginable grief. Questions swirled among the heartbroken community. How could such a tragedy happen? The anger, sorrow, and loss were palpable as Afashio struggled to make sense of a senseless loss. With mounting pressure, the police intensified their investigation, determined to uncover the full truth. Moses Yamu, the spokesperson for the Edo State Police Command, assured the public that every detail would be thoroughly examined to bring justice to the victims' families. But as the case unfolded, deeper issues emerged: revenge, impulsive decisions, and the impact of unprocessed emotions. This case became a grim reminder of the dangerous consequences of unchecked anger. Before we move on to the next case, welcome back to another thrilling episode of True Crime Talks, where we dive deep into the most baffling mysteries and shocking cases. If you love unraveling these tales as much as I do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. The chilling case of Christiana Idowu. On August 19, 2024, the world of 21-year-old Christiana Idowu took a tragic, unforeseen turn. A promising student at the Federal University of Agriculture in Abeokuta, Christiana was well liked for her radiant smile and serious dedication to her studies. She was the kind of person who always left a warm impression on those around her. That morning, she told her family she planned to visit a friend in another town. Her last known sighting was in Idowu, boarding transport toward Yaba. Hours turned into days, and as she failed to return home or answer her phone, her family's worry turned into panic. They knew something was wrong. With a heavy heart, Christiana's family reported her disappearance to the local police. Word quickly spread, and soon her family, friends, and classmates were searching for any sign of her. People shared her picture and story on social media, hoping someone had seen her. The student union at Funaab issued a statement urging fellow students to pray for her safe return. But as days stretched into a week, a dark cloud of worry hung over the community. Then a chilling message came from Christiana's phone. Someone claiming to have kidnapped her demanded a ransom of 3 million naira for her safe return. Her family's hearts sank. They had feared the worst, and now their worst fears were confirmed. Desperate to save their daughter, Christiana's parents tried to negotiate, eventually raising 350,000 naira. They transferred the money to an account provided by the kidnapper, following his instructions exactly. Yet after they complied, all communication ceased. The nightmare worsened, as hope of ever seeing Christiana again started to slip away. A breakthrough in the case led the authorities to 23-year-old Ayomide Adele, a philosophy student at Olabisi Onabanjo University and a familiar face in Christiana's life. He had attended the same church and had even offered to help her with her phone's repair. In a chilling confession, Adele revealed he had lured her to his home under the pretense of helping her. When she arrived that evening, Adele saw an opportunity. Driven by financial desperation, he launched his plan. The story Adele recounted to the police was heart-wrenching. He confessed to attacking Christiana, grabbing her and squeezing her throat until she stopped moving. In a shocking statement, he said, "I just grabbed her, I squeezed her throat, and she gave up." With Christiana gone, he now faced the grim reality of disposing of her body and covering up his crime. Determined to hide his crime, Adele waited until the early hours of the next morning, then buried Christiana's body in a shallow grave behind his house in Ikorodu. But he didn't stop there. He devised a cruel plan to extort money from her family, using her phone to send them ransom demands and preying on their worst fears. Pretending to be her kidnapper, he played the role convincingly, telling Christiana's mother over the phone, "Hello, madam, we have your daughter." By manipulating them, he managed to extract more money from the grieving family, knowing all along what he had done to their beloved daughter. Despite Adele's efforts to cover his tracks, investigators pieced together clues from the ransom transaction. Police traced his movements and money trail, eventually using phone tracking technology to locate him at his parents' residence. In early September, authorities arrested him, uncovering further evidence linking him to the crime, including Christiana's phone and ransom details. During his interrogation, Adele confessed not only to the extortion but also to the murder, and led the police to Christiana's burial site. Adele remains in police custody as authorities prepare to bring charges against him. The Lagos State Police Command has assured the public that they are committed to ensuring justice for Christiana and her family. The case has drawn attention not only due to its gruesome nature, but also because it reflects broader societal issues regarding women's safety in Nigeria. Legal experts and activists are advocating for reforms that would address the root causes of gender-based violence and improve law enforcement responses to such crimes. The sentiment among many is that social media outrage must translate into tangible legal reforms to prevent future tragedies. The horror of Christiana's murder and the betrayal by someone she knew and trusted sent shockwaves throughout Nigeria. Hers was the 76th known femicide case of 2024, a number that revealed the crisis of violence against women in the country. News of Adele's arrest and confession spread quickly, fueling a wave of public outrage and demands for justice. On social media and in the streets, voices rose, calling for harsher punishments for perpetrators of such violence. In the aftermath, Christiana's family faced unimaginable grief, struggling to understand how someone they knew from church, someone who had known Christiana personally, could commit such a monstrous act. The community's sorrow mingled with anger, as many rallied for stricter laws to protect young women from similar fates. Some questioned how society had allowed such violence to grow, while others pointed to the need for mental health support for young people under pressure from financial hardships and societal expectations. The Case of Tit Sanumi. Tit Sanumi, a young woman from Ondo State, Nigeria, was living a relatively peaceful life before crossing paths with Deji Adenuga, a 45-year-old man with a troubling and violent history. Titi was described by those who knew her as kind-hearted, focused on her career and family, with big dreams for the future. However, her relationship with Deji quickly spiraled into something unrecognizable. From the outset, Deji's violent tendencies began to surface, and their relationship was marked by constant tension, emotional manipulation, and occasional physical abuse. Despite her growing discomfort and fear, Titi continued to stay with Deji, possibly due to his persuasive tactics or a sense of duty to repair their damaged relationship. Deji, on the other hand, had a past that should have raised red flags. He had previously been incarcerated for murder, an offense that reflected his violent nature. However, he managed to escape from prison in 2013, and the years that followed only worsened his dangerous tendencies. Deji's erratic behavior was well known in the community, but his presence in Titi's life was an unfortunate result of manipulation and coercion. Isolated by the toxicity of the relationship, Titi may have felt trapped and unsure of how to break free. Despite her own hesitations, she tried to move forward, but the foundation of her relationship with Deji had already begun to crack. As time went on, Titi began to realize that her relationship with Deji was not only emotionally draining, but also physically and mentally abusive. The stress of enduring Deji's violent outbursts and the constant tension between them took a toll on her. It was clear that the relationship was no longer healthy for her. After months of trying to make things work, Titi finally made the brave decision to end her relationship with Deji, believing that it was the only way to protect herself from further harm and begin rebuilding her life. However, this decision did not sit well with Deji. For someone like him, whose sense of self-worth was tied to control and power over his partner, Titi's rejection was seen as a humiliation and betrayal. His violent tendencies were inflamed by the thought of being cast aside, and instead of respecting her decision, Deji became consumed by rage. This rage, fueled by years of unresolved anger and untreated psychological issues, set the stage for a horrific and devastating event. On the night of April 21st, Deji took matters into his own hands. Unable to control his feelings of betrayal, he decided to exact revenge on Titi and her family. His plan was ruthless and calculated. Deji filled a jerry can with petrol and, in the dead of night, threw it into Titi's home through a window. He then ignited the petrol, setting the house ablaze. The fire spread quickly, engulfing the house in flames. 5 family members, including children and adults, perished in the inferno. The devastating scene unfolded as flames consumed the building, taking the lives of Titi's loved ones, who were helpless in the face of such brutality. Tragically, 3 more family members succumbed to their injuries shortly afterward, bringing the death toll to 8. As the fire ravaged the house, Titi, who had been in another part of the house, managed to escape, but suffered severe injuries in the process. She was hospitalized with critical burns and trauma, her body battered and bruised by the flames. The loss of her entire family weighed heavily on her, and the psychological toll of surviving such a horrific event would stay with her for the rest of her life. After carrying out the unthinkable, Deji fled the scene, hoping to evade the authorities. However, his escape would not last long. The police quickly launched an investigation into the fire, and within days, Deji was apprehended. When he was paraded before journalists, Deji offered a chilling explanation for his actions. He claimed that he was motivated by a sense of betrayal and revenge, accusing Titi of aborting a pregnancy he believed they had been expecting. He also alleged that Titi and her sister had extorted money from him during their relationship, a claim that seemed more like an attempt to justify his violent outburst than a legitimate grievance. Deji's statements echoed a common defense used by perpetrators of intimate partner violence, attempting to shift the blame onto the victim. His words were filled with a distorted sense of self-righteousness, as though his violent actions were somehow justified by Titi's perceived wrongdoings. This mindset, which tries to rationalize abuse, is a dangerous one, and is frequently seen in cases of domestic violence. Instead of taking responsibility for his heinous actions, Deji blamed Titi and her family for his violent behavior, further exemplifying his lack of remorse and understanding of the trauma he had caused. Following his arrest, Deji Adenuga was charged with multiple counts of murder, arson, and other related offences. The legal proceedings that followed were long and complex, but they eventually led to Deji's conviction. However, the conviction did little to ease the grief of Titi, who had lost everything in a single night. A 21-year-old student from the Kwara State College of Health Technology in Ilorin, Nigeria, was tragically found dead under disturbing circumstances that have captured significant media attention. Mojisola was a 21-year-old with bright ambitions and a strong sense of purpose. As a student at the Kwara State College of Health Technology in Ilorin, she aspired to a career in healthcare, driven by a desire to help others and improve her family's circumstances. Known for her kind and diligent nature, Mojisola was well liked by her peers. Her closest friend, Blessing, was her roommate, a reliable confidant who provided constant support, especially as Mojisola balanced her studies with various small jobs to make ends meet. Though cautious by nature, Mojisola occasionally took on side gigs to support herself. She was disciplined, avoiding unnecessary risks and always mindful of her safety. However, one evening, she received a surprising offer. Her friend Timalaine called with a proposition, a chance to earn 15,000 by pretending to be someone's girlfriend at a student party. The boyfriend in question, Adebayo Happiness, was a student from Summit University, and he wanted someone to accompany him for the evening. At first, Mojisola hesitated. She didn't know Adebayo, and the idea of pretending to be someone's partner felt uncomfortable. Sensing her reluctance, Timalaine assured her it was just a harmless role play for a quick party and easy money. She convinced Mojisola it would be safe and even fun. The lure of extra income eventually swayed her, as to 15,000 was a significant amount that could help cover expenses. Reluctantly, Mojisola agreed, telling herself it was just one evening, a brief, easy favor for a friend. Little did she know, this seemingly innocent invitation would soon pull her into a web of danger, changing everything she once thought she knew about safety and trust. On August 9, 2024, she prepared for what seemed like a straightforward opportunity. She had agreed to a request from her friend Timalaine to act as the girlfriend of Adebayo Happiness, a student from Summit University, at a party in exchange for 15,000. For Mojisola, the arrangement seemed unusual, but the promise of extra income convinced her to participate despite initial hesitations. Mojisola met with Timalaine that evening, who introduced her to Adebayo. Together, they headed to the party's supposed venue, a hotel in a relatively secluded part of Ilorin. Upon arrival, however, Mojisola's unease began to deepen. The hotel appeared strangely deserted, with no visible signs of the lively gathering she had anticipated. The atmosphere felt unsettlingly quiet. As they walked through the hotel, Mojisola's discomfort grew. The lack of any visible party setup or other guests led her to question the nature of the arrangement. She decided to discreetly contact her roommate, Blessing, who had always been a source of support and understanding. In her message, she expressed concerns about the setting, noting that the hotel did not appear to be hosting any sort of event. Blessing responded, advising Mojisola to trust her instincts and leave if she felt unsafe. However, Mojisola remained hesitant, constrained by the presence of Timalaine and Adebayo, and not wanting to cause an awkward scene. Despite earlier reassurances from Timalaine, the reality of the situation seemed increasingly suspicious. Mojisola attempted to brush off her doubts, convincing herself that perhaps the event was simply delayed or smaller than expected. She continued to follow along, navigating the quiet halls of the hotel, though a lingering sense of dread remained. Mojisola's decision to stay marked the beginning of a tragic sequence of events, as she found herself in an environment that contradicted all prior expectations. In the days following Mojisola's last message, Blessing's worry steadily grew. The message about the strange, quiet hotel still lingered in her mind, filling her with a sense of unease. She tried to reach out to Mojisola multiple times, but each call went unanswered and every text remained unread. At first, Blessing tried to stay calm, convincing herself that Mojisola might simply be busy or had taken some time for herself. However, as the hours turned into days, her initial reassurances began to crumble. By August 13th, Blessing's worry had escalated into full-blown fear. She had reached out to mutual friends and classmates, hoping someone might have seen or heard from Mojisola, but no one had. Each failed attempt to find her only deepened Blessing's sense of dread. She felt an increasing helplessness, as if Mojisola was slipping further out of reach with each passing moment. Determined to take action, Blessing went to the local police station and filed a missing person report. She provided every detail she could recall: the last text, the mention of the hotel, and Mojisola's unease that night. The officers took her statement, assuring her they would investigate, but Blessing felt a constant knot of fear tightening in her chest, worried that time was slipping away. Returning home, Blessing was consumed by a mix of hope and fear, constantly checking her phone for any word from Mojisola. The waiting became unbearable, and her mind raced with questions. Where was Mojisola, and why hadn't she returned? Blessing clung to the hope that her friend would come back safely, but a sense of dread lingered, overshadowing every thought. As night fell, her worry intensified, marking the start of a painful search that would soon captivate the attention of many. On August 12th, 3 days after Mojisola was last heard from, laborers working near a refuse dump in the Eleniboro area of Ilorin made a tragic discovery: the body of a young woman. Authorities were quickly notified, and the scene soon attracted somber onlookers from the community. There was a heavy silence as people gathered, shocked and saddened, while the police arrived to secure the area and examine the remains. After several tense hours, the heartbreaking news spread. The young woman had been identified as Mojisola. The discovery of her lifeless body sent shockwaves through the community. Mojisola, known for her ambition and kindness, had been a beacon of hope for many, and it was difficult for people to come to terms with the fact that she had met such a tragic end. The police transported Mojisola's body to the morgue and began their investigation, determined to uncover the truth behind her death. For the residents of Ilorin, the tragedy sparked fear and concern, marking the beginning of a collective mourning and a community-wide search for answers in a case that now held everyone's attention. In the days following Mojisola's death, the public relations officer for the Kwara State Police addressed the public with a solemn promise. The police were committed to finding the truth and bringing justice to Mojisola's family and the grieving community. An investigation was launched, with detectives tasked to piece together the events leading up to her final hours. The investigation began by focusing on Mojisola's last known interactions. Detectives questioned Timoleon, the friend who had arranged for Mojisola to accompany Adebayo Happiness to the party, and Adebayo himself, the last person reportedly seen with her. Both became central figures in understanding the events of that night. Detectives carefully examined their stories, searching for inconsistencies and looking for any details that could shed light on what had really happened at the quiet, unsettling hotel. Through their interviews, investigators uncovered that Mojisola had felt uneasy about the situation. Her final message to Blessing, expressing discomfort with the hotel and mentioning that there didn't seem to be any party, was a key detail. It painted a picture of a young woman who sensed something was wrong, but had hoped the situation would resolve itself. As the investigation continued, detectives also reviewed surveillance footage from nearby locations, hoping to trace Mojisola's movements. Every piece of evidence was examined carefully, building a timeline that might reveal the truth. As the investigation advanced, suspicions surrounding Timoleon and Adebayo began to grow. Detectives, now more focused than ever, started noticing inconsistencies in their statements. Both Timoleon and Adebayo seemed to have omitted key details or altered parts of their stories, raising more questions than answers. Forensic evidence collected from the site where Mojisola's body was discovered only deepened the tension. Subtle clues suggested signs of foul play, pointing to the unsettling possibility that Mojisola's death was no accident. The investigators also reviewed witness testimonies, hoping to piece together the true sequence of events. With each new detail, a clearer yet more disturbing picture began to emerge, one of manipulation and betrayal, where the truth seemed far more sinister than anyone had originally suspected. This shift in the investigation fueled an increased sense of urgency among the detectives. As they began to reconstruct the events leading up to Mojisola's death, it became clear that the arrangement, which had initially seemed harmless, might have concealed darker motives. The idea that this paid arrangement could be part of a deeper, more dangerous plan made the case all the more tragic and complex. As the investigation unfolded, several key arrests were made, focusing on those directly involved in Mojisola's final days. The primary suspects, Timileyin, who had arranged the paid companion deal, and Adebayo Happiness, the young man Mojisola was hired to accompany, were questioned extensively. Both were the last people known to have had contact with Mojisola before she disappeared, making them central figures in the investigation. Timileyin, the one who convinced Mojisola to take on the arrangement despite her initial reluctance, came under intense scrutiny. Investigators grew suspicious that Timileyin may have been more aware of the risks involved than she had let on. This raised questions about her role in drawing Mojisola into the dangerous situation and whether her intentions were as innocent as they first appeared. Adebayo Happiness, the man Mojisola had been hired to accompany, also came under close examination. The evidence suggested that the encounter at the hotel might have been premeditated, rather than just a casual social event, prompting further investigation into his motives and actions. Both Timileyin and Adebayo were taken into custody, and the case was transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department for further examination. Mojisola's story now serves as a somber reminder of the dangers young people face when navigating the pressures of social expectations and financial need. Her tragic fate underscores the vulnerability of individuals, especially when trust, naivety, and deceit intersect. It raises urgent questions about the need for stronger safeguards and awareness, particularly for those in precarious situations. As the community reflects on the tragic events leading to Mojisola's death, her legacy continues to resonate as a cautionary tale. The consequences of seemingly innocent social arrangements, tinged with hidden motives, serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of safety, vigilance, and the need for better protection of young people in today's world. These cases from 2024 highlight the critical need for greater awareness, justice, and societal change. They urge us to have ongoing conversations about the issues that lead to such tragedies and how we can work together to prevent them in the future. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to stay informed on important updates. Your support helps shine a light on the issues that matter most, and together we can help bring about meaningful change.